Greetings. Welcome everyone. I am Joelle Miles. Today's presentation explores ethical leadership in organizations, focusing on Paul Polman, former CEO of Unilever, and we'll analyze his ethical impact, strategies, and use of the 7 lenses framework to deepen our understanding, integrating practical and biblical perspectives. So we'll take a look at a case study of ethical leadership and the 7 lenses. Okay, so ethical leadership involves guiding organizations with integrity, fairness, and respect for others. According to Johnson 2020, it builds trust and accountability, which are essential for long-term success. Biblically, ethical leadership reflects God's call to lead with justice and love, according to Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14. Today, we'll see how ethical leadership transforms organizations and communities. Paul Polman led Unilever with a vision that balanced profit with purpose. He integrated ethics into business strategy, focusing on sustainability and social responsibility. His leadership is an example of walking the talk and aligning values with actions. Biblically, this echoes James chapter 2, verse 17, which reminds us that faith without works is dead. True leadership requires action rooted in values. Polman's Unilever Sustainable Living Plan improved environmental stewardship and social equity, reflecting a servant leadership style by valuing community and future generations, according to Shapiro and Stefkovich, 2016. His transparency and accountability strengthen stakeholder trust. This aligns very well with Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27, about not withholding good when it's within our power to act, demonstrating responsible leadership. Some of the key strategies Paul Polman included prioritizing long-term goals over short-term profits. He advocated inclusive decision-making involving employees, customers, and communities. He institutionalized sustainability as a core organizational value, which promoted accountability and ethical behavior at every organizational level. So he involved everyone, and these reflect servant leadership, justice, and systems thinking. Biblically, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 encourages working heartily as for the Lord, reminding all leaders to serve with diligence and integrity in all of our efforts. So as we take a look at the overview of the 7 lenses of ethical leadership and what that really means. So the way Shapiro and Stefkovich outlined it, they offered different perspectives to evaluate and guide ethical decision making. Each lens helps leaders understand and navigate complex ethical challenges from varied viewpoints. So let me explain each lens clearly, provide a practical example, and also share what I think might align biblically, because I like to offer you a biblical worldview. with everything we discuss. Okay? So when we take a look at the character lens focuses on the virtues and moral character of the leader, such as honesty, courage, integrity. An example of that would be a leader who consistently tells the truth, even when it's difficult. Okay? And so, well, what does the Bible have to say about that? When we take a look at Proverbs chapter 10, verse 9, it says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely." And this lens reminds us that leadership starts with personal virtue. And so that's the character lens. Who we are when no one is watching us, that's who we really are. Our character speaks, our character precedes who we are. And then the second lens, transformational lens. It inspires change toward ethical goals. It emphasizes inspiring and motivating positive ethical change within an organization. An example of that would be a leader who empowers employees to innovate while upholding ethical standards. Okay? Romans chapter 12, verse 2 encourages transformation by renewing the mind, which relates to inspiring ethical growth. And then we have leadership lens, or servant leadership lens, prioritizes serving others more than we serve ourselves. We prioritize our followers' needs and their growth. So we prioritize serving others, focusing on the needs and development of followers. An example would be a leader who mentors and supports team members selflessly. Mark chapter 10, verse 45 says, "The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve," exemplifying servant leadership. And then we have the justice lens, concentrates on fairness, equity, impartiality in decision making. An example is ensuring equal opportunities, regardless of backgrounds, regardless of status. Our biblical support would be Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It calls us to do justice, love, kindness, and walk humbly. It helps us to see, or it highlights the importance of justice. And then we have ethical egoism lens, balancing self-interest with ethics. What does that mean? Balance self-interest with ethical responsibility. It helps us recognize that leaders must also care for themselves without harming others. An example of that would be a leader who sets healthy boundaries to avoid burnout while maintaining ethical conduct. If we don't get the proper rest that we need because we're hyper-focused on helping someone else, eventually we'll reach burnout, and then we will not be very useful to ourselves, nor will we be useful to anyone else. Okay? And so the biblical support for that is Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. It encourages looking out for others' interests, but also implies balanced self-care. And then we have relational lens. Relational lens focuses on building and maintaining respectful, trustworthy relationships. An example is a leader who fosters open communication and collaboration. Okay, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 stresses or emphasizes speaking in ways that builds others. It builds other people up. It doesn't tear them down. So it highlights relational ethics. And then we have systems lens, considering the broader organizational and societal context. Okay. Considering the broader organizational, social, and environmental systems affected by leadership decisions. And an example is a leader who advocates for sustainable business practices that benefits society as a whole. Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 is our biblical support, and it reminds us to tend and keep the earth, reflecting stewardship of systems beyond ourselves. And so by examining leadership through these lenses, we as leaders gain a comprehensive understanding of ethical leadership, helping them make decisions that honor both people and principles. And I believe that is Shapiro's and Stefkovich's main idea, main focus of what they're trying to get us to understand. Okay, so focus lens analysis. I chose the systems lens. Okay, why did I choose that? Well, I chose the systems lens because it provides a holistic approach to understanding leadership's impact within complex, interconnected environments. And I believe Paul Polman's leadership exemplifies this lens by addressing not only Unilever's internal operations, but also the global environmental and social systems affected by business practices. Shapiro and Stefkovich 2016 stress that this lens encourages leaders to consider the long-term consequences of their decisions on society and the planet. And this approach promotes sustainable and responsible leadership that extends beyond immediate organizational interests. And so I think if I were to say it a different way, if I can, of why I chose the systems lens, because it encourages leaders to see beyond immediate outcomes and consider the wider societal and environmental consequences of our actions, according to Johnson 2020. Paul Polman exemplified this by integrating sustainability into Unilever's strategy and advocating for global systemic change, according to Shapiro and Stefkovich in 2016. And biblically, what does that mean for me? Based on my understanding and what I'm trying to convey to you, is that the stewardship of creation is a key responsibility that God, placed on us, according to Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, making this lens vital for responsible leadership today. So as we conclude, Paul Polman exemplifies ethical leadership by integrating or demonstrating how ethics and sustainability can be successfully integrated into organizational strategy to create positive change. The 7 lenses framework helps us understand the multifaceted nature of ethical leadership, with the systems lens highlighting the importance of broad systemic thinking. Effective leadership, ethical leadership, requires vision, accountability, and a commitment to long-term impact, which are essential for addressing today's complex challenges, and systemic awareness rooted in moral values, echoing biblical teachings on justice, service, and stewardship. These are all essential. These are all things that Paul Pullman exemplifies within his ethical leadership. And so I do thank you so much for your attention. I thank you so much for your time. And this concludes our time together. Here are some references for the key texts that I used in this presentation. I talked using as a reference Johnson's Meeting the Ethical Challenges of Leadership, and it provides foundational concepts in ethical leadership, and Shapiro and Stefkovich's Ethical Leadership in Decision-Making in Education, which introduces the 7 lenses framework, which is essential for understanding different perspectives on ethical leadership. Again, thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Joelle Miles with Wayland Baptist University, and I really appreciate you taking the time to hear me out. Enjoy. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless you.